I'm Philip. I'm Philip Daniels.
I'm Joe Cardozo.
I'm Jeff Barnes.
This is The Perspective.
And this is The Perspective.
Welcome to The Perspective.
How are you? This is The Perspective, and I am not Joe Cardozo. Joe is actually away on business this week, but we have the perfect stand-in for him. We have Philip Daniels in the house as always. I am Jeff Barnes, and in the house this week is Andre A.J. Daniels, Mr. Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yo.
I gotta throw out there. I gotta throw the affiliation out there. Yeah. I am unbranded. I purposely did not pledge when I was at Grant.
I understand.
And man, listen, you chased me off with all that. Oh, we're actually going to brand you or tattoo you. Absolutely not. I will not do that.
Yeah, everybody make a mistake.
Uh-oh. Say it, boo. What Phil rep? What you talking about, Phil? Okay, I see. I understand.
And
Well, I promise I'm not going to tell the story how I got branded when I didn't intend to. I'm not going to tell that story.
You don't have to. Just the fact that you have to.
Man. Thank my brother Jack Daniels for that. Thank my brother Jack for that.
Once I saw Ben Coates on TV with the Sigma on his arm, they're like, yeah, that's a Sigma man. I said, absolutely not. Because the dude that was trying to get me to pledge was a Sigma. And that was exactly the turnoff I needed. So if it was any chance of me pledging, that killed it right there. Because I am a coward when it comes to pain. So, so we've got an interesting playoff week, guys. I mean, for a very interesting playoff games. Some of them were supposed to be closer than they were. That didn't happen, as we saw. So, might as well jump right into it. And let's start off with, of course, the elephant in the room. The Chiefs get the big win over the Jags, although they had to sweat it out. And they had to sweat it out with Chad Henne playing a good portion of this game at quarterback. So let's talk about this, guys. I mean, you know what? You're the special guest this week, so you get carte blanche to kick this one off, Dre. Tell us how you feel about this game.
Well, I'm not going to try to say I told you so because I haven't been on the show, but I said that Kansas City at the end of the year was going to be representing the AFC as the number one seed. So heading into that game, I knew Jacksonville was on fire, but I just knew that some kind of way that Patrick Mahomes, Eric Bieniemy, and of course Andy Reid and team were going to figure it out. And they did, even through his injury, because Chad Henne came in and he did not suck. And at the end of the day, that's what you want from your backup quarterback until they could get Patrick Mahomes back in there. So I wasn't surprised. I wasn't disappointed. I felt like Kansas City would be exactly where they were, even going through a red-hot Jacksonville Jaguar team.
What about you, Phil? Tell us your perspective on this game.
I'm with AJ on that. I wasn't surprised because when you got the play callers that they got over there, it don't matter who you throw in at quarterback, they're gonna be okay. Even when he got hurt, there was no panic. It was a bad injury, you know what I'm saying? It looked pretty bad. He was lucky that it wasn't more, you know what I'm saying? Just a sprain, high ankle sprain, but that thing looked kind of ugly. So, but like when Henne came in there, they didn't miss a beat, you know what I'm saying? I think he could have finished the game. They'd still been okay. I think Kansas City was going to win that game no matter what. But this week, I think they need him. They need the quarterback back in there, and they need him healthy. So it's going to be tough, man. It's a tough road ahead for him. It's tough to high ankle sprain, injury that usually lasts about 4 weeks. It's going to be tough coming off of 1 week of treatment and trying to go out there and play. So we'll see what happened there. But I wasn't surprised in the outcome of the game and how the game went.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I expected Kansas City to win this game. I expected it would either get out of hand late or be close the whole way through. I think the Mahomes injury kind of kept it closer than it would have been had he played all 4 quarters. I'm actually a little surprised that there wasn't at least a little bit of a lull. When you got a guy that sits on the bench all season and doesn't play any meaningful snaps, sometimes it takes a while for him to get into the flow of the game. That didn't happen with Chad Henne. He came right in. It was like a relief pitcher. We're just moving along. Credit Pacheco, okay, because his ability in the running game to make some explosive runs here and there kind of has changed this offense. because we were talking about last year, they didn't have that. Edwards-Helaire doesn't seem to be the same guy he was his rookie year. None of the other guys really gave them that burst they needed in the running game. Isaiah Pacheco's done that, and he's, as a rookie, coming in, giving them that extra bit of burst in the running game, that explosiveness has helped Patrick Mahomes at times where he could just hand the ball off and go into second and short, or even go from first down to first down. So that's one of the biggest things I think, because that helped Chad Henne a lot when he came in the game, was the ability to hand it off to Isaiah Pacheco and say, here you go, get me a couple of first downs, get me some yardage so I can make these manageable third downs and keep these chains moving. So I think that was one of the biggest things to help him as well. But overall, it was one of my picks was Kansas City. I'm just happy that I got the pick right. But to see them go on with Mahomes going out of the game, and I'm sitting in a press box watching an All-Star game with that on my tablet. So I mean, it's real interesting trying to watch two games at once. But seeing what happened, and we're like talking about it in the press box, trying to share updates. What's going on with Mahomes? And they come back in the game, see him fighting to stay in the game, see him fighting not to go to the locker room. All of that happening in this playoff game, and Kansas City doesn't miss a beat. Gives me high hopes going into the Cincinnati matchup, a team that they haven't beaten yet, which I'm not going to give away too much on that because we got to talk a little bit later. So let's talk about
Jeff, you just said it, man. Quarterback's best friend is run game.
Mm-hmm.
And these playoff games, man, the teams that can run the ball, they win in the games. The teams that can stop the run.
Yeah.
And for Kansas City, when the injury happened, you knew that they had some backs in that backfield that can carry the load, and that's exactly what they did. If you don't have a run game, if you don't exercise your run game, you have no chance. So if he'd have stayed in the game, say he completed the whole game, they would have had that run game loaded up. They would have been running like crazy because backups don't get enough reps in practice to actually be that efficient in games. You know what I'm saying? He was efficient enough, but they were going to hand that ball off if he stayed in that game and if Mahomes didn't come back.
Oh, absolutely. So let's pivot to the late Saturday game. It's supposed to be the Giants and Eagles, third time around. Giants coming off the big emotional win. And, I was telling Philip before we went live, I turned the game off at 28-7, and when I saw the final, it got worse. I don't know how to react to that one. Phil, please save me from this drowning pit of sorrow trying to talk about what happened to the Giants.
Man, the Giants just didn't show up. That's what happened. They were not physical at all. I saw a team that just gave up. They came into the game, looked like they were satisfied with just being there. I didn't like the game plan at all. When your star running back, a beast in the backfield, Saquon Barkley, only carried the ball 4 times in the first half, that told you right there where this game was going when it was 28-0 in the first half. He only carried the ball 9 times the whole game. I mean, this is a guy that can make things happen. You get him to put the ball in his hands and let him just run it. And you got to be physical in the run game. Can't be no outside stuff. It got to be downhill, go get them. And to be honest with you, that's how the Eagles lost this year. The game they lost this year, it was against running backs and teams that went downhill, ran at them, double team inside, and go get it. Well, they did none of that. They came out tossing the ball around. And I'm tired of these teams trying to showcase the quarterbacks instead of winning games. You got to have your run game. Your run game got to be a big part of your offense when it gets to playoffs. If you can't run the ball in playoffs, like I said, you're not going to win the game. You're not going to win games. And if you can't stop the run, you're not going to win games. And so that's exactly what happened. They came out there. They got pass happy. The Eagles got some sacks early. They scored every time they got the ball, every possession. The game got out of hand, 28-0 at halftime. It was pretty much over right there. And then I look at the defense. I want to see them bounce back, come out the tunnel and bounce back. Man, they got manhandled. Man, I remember Kelsey taking 71 and I know what happened to him. He pulled his hands back. He didn't shoot his hands, and he paid the price for it. And Kelsey just manhandled it. And that's what happened the whole second half. Guys were getting knocked off the ball. They were opening holes. Guys wasn't running to the ball no more. It's just like they were just out there, out there floating and trying to figure out, when they're going to get their peanuts on that plane when they go home. So that's exactly what it looked like. It wasn't a physical game, but it'll be different this week, though.
Yeah, a lot of guys are getting bounced out the club at that line of scrimmage. You're right about that. Dre, what are your thoughts on this one? What's your perspective?
Man, let me tell you something. First of all, we're happy for Jalen Hurts like he is from Houston. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he's from right down the street in Channelview High School. I've been saying it, man. This dude has won on every single level. And to see him play the way that he's playing right now is not surprising to us, those who have seen him at Channelview High School, those who saw him at Alabama, those who recognize how he switched over to Oklahoma and didn't miss a beat. All he needed was his time to come in the NFL. And guess what? His time is now. As far as the game plan was for Philly to walk in with a dog leash, put it around the neck of the New York Giants, and they dog walked them for the rest of the game. Period. End of discussion. Period. Point blank. Daniel Jones will never hear me call him Danny Dimes because he's not done anything to earn that. And we saw what happened to him when those games mattered. They did not have good performances against a dominant, physical Philadelphia Eagles team. I got to be honest, man. I owe Nick Sirianni a big apology. I got hung up on how he interviewed and had no idea how he was going to coach. This man has figured something out with the talent that he has at Philadelphia, and he's got everybody playing at a high level. So when you got that confidence, when you've got that ability, when you got that physicality with a great game plan, you're going to get dog walked a lot. So, Giants, great season. Might even consider their head coach for coach of the year when you look at what he was able to do. But at the end of the day, they're going home and Philly's going on.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, I didn't expect this game to be out of hand so fast. I think this was the first time. I was literally sitting there just like this meme, stone faced, because this game got out of hand so fast. It is the first time this season I've seen this Giant team panic.
Yeah.
They went down 14-0 and they panicked.
Yep.
And usually they continue to fight. They usually continue to find a way. They panicked. And it just got worse for them. And I think that's the energy that drew me to the point where I said, this game is over. I'm turning it off. Because it just seemed like, okay, I've been in those situations as a player. I've been in those situations as a coach where you get down big, you all of a sudden you feel you have to press and make something happen now, otherwise it's going to get worse. And when it doesn't happen, it gets worse because you're trying to do too much instead of staying within the plan. And I think that's what happened. They got out of sorts. Oh, shoot. Well, 14-0. We haven't stopped them yet. We got to score. All right, well, let's try and get a quick score and put it in the air, try and get something big to happen, and it didn't happen. Instead of going, listen, ride your horse. Sometimes slowing the game down gets you back into it because it allows your team to calm down and to focus up and say, let's get our job done. And they didn't do that. It's the first time all season I've seen them panic like this. And they've taken some losses this season where you go, okay, even when they got blown out the first time they played Philadelphia, they didn't come out in panic in that game. They fought back at some point. I didn't see that fight this time around. I saw this team literally panic, and it got worse. And it was like, okay, well, it was a good run, guys. Let's just finish this out. And that's not what I expected from this team. Now, I think we'll talk about these guys later a little more. But I think right now, 38-7, I'm not even going to beat the dead horse on this. I'm moving on. Burrow and the Bengals. Burrow and the Bengals and the Bills. Well, that's the game that we should talk about. Let's go after Dre. Man. This one right here, Joe Burrow gets it done.
I called it, man. I called it. It got personal. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, don't be mad at nobody but the NFL for them pre-selling those neutral game tickets. That's like bulletin board material that they gave Cincinnati that Buffalo did not do. And Joe Burrow and that squad took it personally. So what that means is they did the little things well. They did the execution, the little things in the execution well. And, oh, yeah, by the way, that one got out of hand. That wasn't a bad call. That wasn't a pass interference or a holding call that didn't get called. That was another dog walking. Cincinnati came in. They were methodical. They ran the ball. You could tell they were on fire because they had linemen downfield hyped up and excited about opening up holes for their running crew. And guess what? It paid off. And there is nobody cooler in the game than Joe Burrow. If you're waiting on him to make mistakes, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So Again, Cincinnati took it personal. Cincinnati made it personal. I know it was personal because at the end of the game, what did Joe Burrow say? The NFL is going to have to send some refunds.
All right, Phil, what's your perspective on this one?
I mean, just like the Eagles had a perfect game plan and did what they needed to do, Cincinnati did the same thing, man. They came out, they ran the ball, they threw like the short. They didn't try to go out and field a whole lot, throwing deep balls, anything like that. They took what they gave them, they marched it down the field every time, and they scored. Joe Burrow did a great job of coming out and rallying that team, keeping that team going, and it's every possession you could tell that it was important to them. They kept the run game involved. They didn't get pass happy. They did exactly what they needed to do to win the game. And on the other side, Buffalo, I just think Buffalo got to change course. You're not going to win game trying to showcase Josh. You're just not. You got to get a run game. You got to start running the backs more. You're not running enough. You got to get some guys back there and say, we're going to hand you this ball. And that itself will open up the passing game and allow Josh to have more opportunities to get yards down the field, So I just feel like they got the way they're going right now, they got to change course. It hadn't worked in the last 2-3 years. They got to change course and do something a little bit different. I mean, it's fine and dandy to see Josh Allen with a bunch of yards throwing it around the yard. But at the same time, I want to see those backs run that ball and carry the load sometimes in some of these games, especially when you get to the playoffs. It's this kind of the weather and everything, that kind of weather, you want to see those backs carry the load. And Cincinnati did the exact thing they needed to do in that kind of weather, run the ball and make it hurt.
See, the Georgia just came out of you right there. Right there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's
go down.
That's the Georgia coming out of you.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what this reminded me of, and I wish I had the meme for it. This game reminded me of that second Wilder Fury fight. Right? When they came out and he hit Wilder early and put him down, and his eyes were like this the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm.
That was the look on Buffalo's face.
Mm-hmm.
After they got hit early and Cincinnati kept hitting them, they didn't know how to react. They kept trying to do what they normally do. It didn't work. They just did not know how to react. They got hit early and they never recovered. And I think that was the biggest problem in this one. We talked about the Giants panicking. They didn't panic. They just didn't know how to adjust to what they were getting. This game plan was just too good. They kept getting hit. They didn't know how to stop the Bengals. They couldn't seem to figure out this Bengal defense enough to score enough points on them. They just seemed behind in the game plan every step of the way, and it like they ran out of time. You never got a chance to figure them out in the 4 quarters you played them. And sometimes you got to go over to the other coach on the other sideline and say, you did a great job of whipping my butt today. And I hope that's what happened at midfield, because that's exactly what happened. Both that team got beat. Those coaches got beat, and it was just a straight sweep for the Bengals on that one. All right, so last game of the weekend. This one's good. I'm going to have to talk about this one in my perspective later, but it's going to be more for the fans. But we got to talk about this game here. Of course, it's the Niners and Cowboys, and of course, the Niners managed to pull this one out, 19-12. It's a seesaw battle for most of this game. We saw the 2 interceptions by Prescott. We saw Tony Pollard go down. We didn't see the dominant Brock Purdy this week. So this is a really interesting one, and I'm going to get this out the way because they've already put my Cowboy fandom out there. So I'm not going to hold up last and make it look like I'm taking up the smoke on this one. I'm going to just throw it out there first, so this way nobody can say, it's the Cowboy fan gets to go last. No. So, listen, I would beat up Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott didn't play the greatest game, but his offensive coordinator didn't do a great job helping him either. I mean, when you're calling your game plan and you say, okay, we came out there, we thought the pass rush was going to be because we probably want to go to the quick game. And you're running these quick hitches and there's all these quick outs and whips and all this stuff that's under 5 yards. And they're dropping purposely to see that and jumping it. You have to come after your script and say, okay, my adjustment is I got to go intermediate. I got to high-low these guys. I got to do things to make those underneath defenders move around and think. He never did that. The pick to CeeDee Lamb, where it bounced off of the corner, the slot corner, and the linebacker picks it off. Perfect example. You're running a whip route against zone. Whips aren't built for zone. There were movement route that's meant to break down man coverage. So it was like, okay, that was wrong. Like the pick that he threw towards Gallup, I'm sorry. How many times you going to throw a stop route to Michael Gallup this season? The guy has gotten you picked off at least 4 times on the stop route. He's not stopping on his routes. It's obviously he's not recovered from the knee injury. So I wouldn't even throw the stop route his way. So I wouldn't even call it for him. That's a whole nother thing. But overall, when I looked at it, the defense played a good game. They didn't get the crucial stop in the fourth quarter. You would love it if your defense makes that last touchdown into a field goal, you still have a chance to win this game. Once they got the touchdown, they were going to be hard pressed. And then they compounded with the 2 minutes punting the football. You never punted in that situation. You don't. You don't, because you if you do stop them like they did, you get the ball back with no timeouts, a long field, and virtually no chance. And I'm not even going to talk about that last play. That was just a joke and a half. But there was too many blunders by this team, not just on the field, but definitely from that sideline. You really have to question the offensive play calling. Mike McCarthy didn't do anything to help himself with the game management situations. So they're still going to beat him up about that. This team, it failed in a crucial game that they needed to have to finally get people to stop talking about them. But what can you say? Credit the Niners for continuing to find a way to win. Plain and simple. They found ways to win this game. Their running game was non-existent in the first half. They found it in the second half. They made big plays. That ad-lib catch over the middle, where it's bouncing off his hands, it's bouncing off his helmet. It's Kittle. I mean, they found ways to win this game. They deserve to move on. Phil, what do you think about it?
Actually, this was my favorite game to watch the whole weekend. Two good defenses going against each other. Two D lines that's real physical going against each other. I mean, everybody talk about Dak Prescott and what he didn't do, but he was going against number one defense, guys. I mean, it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? He's going against the best. And he made some mistakes and threw a couple of picks, but I expect that against the number one defense. I expect them to make some plays. But then you got to come back and just make more plays. You got to find a way to make more plays. But like you said, the run game was non-existent in the first half for San Francisco, but they stayed with it. And that's what playoff teams do. The ones that's going to win are going to stay with it. They don't care if you start them a bunch of times. They're not going away from it. They're going to keep you honest. And I thought that Purdy did a good job just taking what they gave him and playing a decent game. It wasn't a high-scoring game, but it was a defensive game. But those two defensive fronts, they were physical. They battled. I mean, they stopped the run for the most part. And like I say, the team that came out and just got the turnovers was the team that won. So, and just think about the poor field goal kicker. I was hoping that he get it together. You know what I'm saying? Because that first field goal was going to be a miss. It's going to be wide left. They blocked it. But if you go back and look at that, but at the same time, I feel like they did what they did. They moved the ball down the field. They got the points that they needed to get San Fran. And Kyle Shanahan's a smart coach. He's a smart coach. He came up with a good game plan, stuck with it, and they got the win. So, yeah, that was my favorite game of the weekend because it was a defensive game. I like seeing that. I like seeing teams that prepared and they're going out there and being physical and just seeing what happened in the end.
All right, yeah. Listen, I have a hard time feeling bad for a kicker, especially because when you're a player and you're out there sweating and going through all them drills and that dude is standing on the side just kicking and talking. You don't feel bad for him when he misses. You just look at him like, dude, you had one job, literally one job. So, yeah, I as a player, I don't feel bad for him. As a coach, yeah, I got to feel bad for him. I got to feel bad about every man on my roster when they're kind of struggling. But, yeah, Dre.
Jeff, believe it or not, I got to dress out for one game. I was a scout team player, for D1. I got to dress out one game, and I roomed with a kicker. And this dude really thought he was a part of the team. It's like, dude, you ain't made one tackle. You ain't gone through one drill. Whenever we got to run sprints and stuff like that, you and the punter are over there kicking. So please don't lie to yourself. You are a kicker. That's it. And he had one job, and he still didn't do that. That aside, Kyle Shanahan, I have to give credit to because I saw him when he was the offensive coordinator here in Houston. I saw him, of course, when he went to Atlanta. And to this day, he will defend his decision not to run the ball more in the second half of that Super Bowl loss to New England. Guess what? He learned this past weekend. He stuck with the run, and that discombobulated everything that Dallas tried to do because they were able to pick up first downs with the run. But watch this. They were able to keep that defensive line for Dallas second guessing and give Brock Purdy just enough time to make one and in some cases more than one read. And guess what? He does not make a lot of mistakes. He may, but he didn't do it this week. They did that and were able to do that because they were able to sustain and maintain the run. And then on the other side of the ball, I got to give credit to one of Houston's own, D'Amico Ryans, used to play linebacker here. He has found a system that works for that defense in San Francisco that still has not been figured out. They find a way to bring pressure. They find a way to cover and take away something that you don't know you miss until it's gone. And guess what? They did it to Dallas. They had them throwing the ball to places that they didn't want to throw the ball. And once Tony Pollard went down, Dallas's backfield became one-dimensional. They're special when it's Tony and Ezekiel. They're kind of mundane when it's just Ezekiel. So it needed to be Dak making plays that he did not make, and that's why they ended up, in my opinion, losing 19-12 to a team that they could have beaten.
Indeed. I mean, I don't think there was a point until they scored that touchdown with McCaffrey where I felt that it was going to end up one way. I think for the most part, when Dallas came back and they took the early lead, it was like, okay, all right, they showed up for this one. This is going to be a nice little battle. I'm not comfortable with 6-3, but I think, they could end up pulling this one out. And when they tied it at 9, I said, okay, if their defense can continue to keep them out the end zone, they can win this game. And as soon as McCaffrey crossed that goal line, I said, game over. Because I said at that point, they're going to do exactly what I thought they would do. They panicked. Okay, we had to do this now. And they started pressing the issue, and then they got down. And once again, they had that horrible play calling series. I'm sorry, I get the ball with 2 minutes left. I have 2 timeouts left. I know if I kick the ball the way they're running the ball in the second half, I may not get that ball back. And if I do, I'm definitely not going to have my timeouts. That is a 4-down sequence I'm calling. Like, it's plain and simple. If you get stopped there, you're going to lose the same way you're going to lose if you don't have the timeouts and the time in the field position. So you're gambling either way. To me, it's the bigger gamble to not go for it. So I think Mike McCarthy, the one thing you, as a head coach, you got to understand your team. You got to understand your team in the situation it's in. How many times have they pulled that out? I mean, they got lucky with Houston, okay, when they pulled it out like that. But this wasn't Houston.
Right.
All right. So you better go for it in 4 downs there because 10-1, exactly what happened was going to happen. You're going to get the ball back, all right, deep in your own end, no timeouts, no nothing. And that is the most, I would say, impossible odds you could think of. All right. Versus that defense. And listen, there was the bonehead not dragging your foot in bounds, yada, yada, that ridiculous call at the end. That's Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
That's Kellen Moore.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Ezekiel Elliott snapping the ball, coming out in this exotic formation to throw a 10-yard hitch when the guy gets hit. And honestly, if I'm doing anything, I'm lining up 5 wide. Yes, Turpin will be my running back, and I motion him out in the 5 wide. I'm going to run that Hail Mary formation, let them run, and have about 15 yards down the field, I'm dumping the Turpin and letting them dudes block for Turpin. That's the best chance to succeed. Not coming out in some exotic formation where they know you're not throwing deep. You're going to do some crazy stuff. It baffled the mind what their thinking was in that situation. It really did.
Well, I think their desperation took over.
Yeah.
At different points of the game, and it cost them. And again, we can't overlook Dak making the turnovers because they came at crucial moments, and they came and they literally took the life out of Dallas and put the energy over on the San Francisco side, and you just didn't need that.
No.
They came out trying to bully Brock Purdy, and it worked for the first, quarter. But then guess what? San Francisco made the adjustments, and Purdy was able to settle down and make just enough plays to help his team win.
And you're able to bully him if you don't throw that second interception.
Right.
Because then you take the lead. You're putting him in a situation where he feels he has to make a play. He doesn't have to make a play as long as he's even or ahead.
Right.
And that's the problem they had. That first interception, I beat Dak up a lot. My only problem with that first interception was that you threw that route to Gallup, knowing how many times he's either almost gotten you picked or has gotten you picked. I'm not throwing that route to him. I am not. If you've been burned that many times, you don't throw the ball to that guy in that situation. If it's a slant, I'll throw it to Michael Gallup. If it's an in, any movement route, I'm doing it. Anytime he has to stop and come back to the football, he has proven it this year. He can't do it. And I don't know if it's because he's not fully healthy. He doesn't fully mentally trust his knee.
Right.
I don't know. But I've seen it too many games now. The first game he came back against Philadelphia, the same thing happened, and Slay picks it off. And it happened that he almost got picked off when he tried to hit him quick against Chicago, and Fuller jumped it. And then he jumps at the next play. He jumps to out route to Brown. So, yeah, it's Dak. There's certain guys you throw deep to. There's certain guys you throw short to over the middle. Well, I know I don't throw a stop to Michael Gallup until he shows me he can actually explode back to the football and help your quarterback.
Yeah.
All right.
I really don't have a problem with what Parsons said about the points. He said that whenever you can hold a team that low points, you expect to win the game. And they took that.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? He said the right thing. I remember when I was in Washington, man, we used to always say, "Give us 2 touchdowns, we gonna win." That's all you got.
That's what Ray Lewis was saying in Baltimore. He's like, "Look, look, how many y'all need?" Like they were gonna shut the other team down, and they were gonna put up defensive points. So the offense just needed to put up 7 or 14, and they gone.
That's it, man. So the defense played their butt off. They have nothing to hang their heads about. Keep that same attitude next year, and the offense get better. Then they can do some things.
Yeah, I just remember being in that situation, and it was against a division rival. It's funny if you think about it. It was Bengals Steelers back then, the old Bronx Bengals. But it is funny. We were tied. We were up 7-6 with like 2 minutes left. They got in our red zone, and then I just said, if they score a touchdown here, we're in trouble because our offense just didn't exactly overwhelm us that night. Because we have to get a stop here. They had a decent kicker, but we knew we keep them out the end zone, we could still win this game. And we gave up that 6, and I just looked at the sideline and I was like, all right, I got to put my faith in the group. They couldn't get in the end zone but more than once tonight. So, and we lost 14-6 because of that. So sometimes you just know, if there's it's a defense when you're playing that kind of game and your offense is struggling, you go, okay, we got to keep them out the end zone to win. Because they may be scoring 30 points a game, but today they just don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to keep these guys out the end zone. And when they score, you go, okay, it's up to you guys. Please, please, please. You're begging.
Yeah.
So
it's probably a hard or bad example, but a lot of folks did not realize how much Peyton Manning's play helped the Colts defense.
Mm-hmm.
The Colts defense wasn't great.
No.
But because Peyton never left them in short fields, never left them in bad situations, typically did not have them on the field too long, a mediocre defense looked good enough. And that's where Dak's got to realize you got a very good defense. You just don't turn the ball over. You just play game management football and make plays where you can. All of a sudden, the Cowboys look a whole lot better than they did this past weekend.
Yeah, and you think about the Colts when they won the Super Bowl, they were one of the worst run-stopping defenses in the league that year. So, yeah, I see exactly what you mean. All right, so we've recapped last week. Let's look forward to this week. 2 big games. We got Niners-Eagles and Bengals-Chiefs. Let's start off with the Niners-Eagles. So, Phil, who do you have in this game and why?
It's tough, man, because you got 2 good defenses. They both playing at a high level. The Eagles psych specialists, whereas you got the 49ers that can do a little bit of both. They're good against the run, number one against the run, and they can go sack the quarterback, and they're physical. That's the one thing I saw last week against Dallas. The 49ers was physical, and the one thing I can say, it's going to be tough to call this game, but I think home field advantage got to matter a little bit here. And the quarterback, the most experienced quarterback, the guy that got that's been behind center the longest, you got to give them a little edge here. So I think I'm going to take the Eagles at home. It's going to be a physical game. It can go either way. I feel like the only way, the way the 49ers can win this game is go look at that Washington film and look at the teams that beat the Eagles. And the only way you beat them is be physical on offense by running the ball downhill. And they can do that. So I don't know which way this game is going to go. I know it's going to be a good game. I know the Eagles are going to be ready. They've done a good job all year. The coaching staff has done a good job all year of getting those guys ready. The players, I know some of the players. They got big hearts. And they're going to come to play, and they're going to come ready. So I think it's going to be on the road. Being on the road, I know the 49ers are used to that. But I really feel like this is one of the best offenses the 49ers have played all year. And it's going to be interesting to see how this thing goes. But I think the most physical team, the team that don't turn the ball over, is going to win this game. So I'm going to go with the Eagles at home. I know last week I went with the Giants, but I was trying to catch up with you, Jeff. I knew I was wrong when I made that decision. But at the same time, I'm going to take the Eagles at home to get to the big dance.
All right, Dre, this one's on you.
Do me a favor, go to you and let me come back real quick.
You got it. So I'm going to make an emotional pick here. I think that the Eagles are one of the most explosive teams in the league. When Jalen Hurts is under center or in shotgun, his ability to, throw the football, his ability to extend plays, his ability to add to the running game takes this team up a notch, right, offensively. We saw it with Minshew against Dallas. Yes, they were able to throw the football and have success and keep up in that game. But against the Saints, a tough defense, they missed his ability in the running game. They couldn't get a running game started, and they struggled to score in the first half. They got blanked in the first half. So I think Hurts opens everything up. His natural ability does so much for this offense. It's going to challenge San Francisco in a way Dallas didn't. I think overall, analytically, you got to go with the Eagles. However, I said this is emotional, right? So I have a deep distaste for the Eagles ever since Buddy Ryan was patrolling their sidelines. So it makes it real hard for me to pick for them to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm begging the Niners to pull this one out because, plain and simple, it's hard hearing fly, Eagles, fly, and all that stuff after Buddy Ryan. I'm sorry. I try to just, but in many weeks I am objective. But then we're talking about the Super Bowl here, and I have to hear fly, Eagles, fly in the Super Bowl. Please spare me the pain in San Francisco. Go and finish the job this week because, this will break my heart even more.
Boy.
I know. I'm trying. I tried to extend it as long as I could, Dre. But I can't tell you. Listen, when I watched McNabb go the first time, I felt like I got stabbed in the gut. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then when I watched Tom Brady and them blow it against them with that Philly special nonsense, oh my goodness! Oh,
I was a part of that, so I was happy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you're happy. Listen, one of my coaching buddies is from the South Jersey, Philly area, so he's a huge Eagles fan. He makes his point to talk and talk and talk. He has a law degree, so he can talk. So it is the hardest thing to see him go Philly. He's been talking all weekend. Yeah. So is there going to be any traffic on the turnpike this week because the Giants don't have it? Oh no. Philly's got the game. It's nonstop, and then he goes in on my team. So, and like I said, when I see those Eagles, I see Buddy Ryan, and it's just like, man, oh man, the Bounty Bowl forever changed that franchise for me. So, yeah, I've never ever rooting for the Eagles. Even when Randall Cunningham was wearing a uniform, I couldn't root for him. I'm sorry. It was the Eagles. It was the Eagles. I could not do it. I could not do it.
You got to at least root for the player, though. Come on now.
I loved Randall. I loved him even more when he wore a star on his helmet. I liked him even more when he was a Viking. But when he was an Eagle, boy, I wanted them to break him in half so bad just because he was an Eagle. Just because he was an Eagle.
Man. The blasphemy.
I could root for him against the Giants in Washington. I couldn't root for him any other time.
Let me go put my collar on so I can pray for you. I need some oil right here somewhere.
Yes, Julio. That's our social media expert, Julio, in the chat there. Yes, the dark side of bars. Yes. I cannot stand watching the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. That is like, yeah. That's like watching the girl of your dreams parade around with another dude in front of you. You just can't. You can't do it. You can't do it.
It got personal for right there. I felt his heart right there, Philip.
You never outlive those burns, right?
Oh,
so there you go. When I see the Eagles go to the Super Bowl, I never outlive those burns. All right, Dre, what's your thoughts on this one?
Let me just say this, man. One thing I do love is the mentality that Jalen Hurts approaches each game with. After that game this weekend, what did he say? We haven't done anything yet. The work's not done. And he has been that mentally tough all the way throughout this season. So to think that those players and whatever offense that they put in won't rally around him with that mentality, I just can't see that happening. I say that to say he's going to present a challenge to San Francisco that they have not seen many times this year. He's a quarterback that can do more than just quarterback. He is not a running back playing quarterback. He's cerebral. He can throw the ball. He can go through his reads. He can manage the offense, and he can make plays. That puts that defense at a disadvantage that they wouldn't normally be at against a team that doesn't have a quarterback like that. And they can run the ball. And they're not vanilla. And they're physical. And, oh, yeah, by the way, everything that I'm saying offensively, they are defensively. So I don't think the defense is going to try and come out and bully Brock Purdy like the Cowboys tried to. I think the defense is going to come out and try and dominate on that offensive line and make Purdy beat them in ways that we haven't seen him do things yet. I mean, he's been efficient and he hasn't made a lot of mistakes, but can he lead his team when there's no running game? Can he lead his team when, they put a little bit more effort into Kittle than we saw the Cowboys put into him? So I really do think that the Eagles pull this one out. I think it'll be a physical game. I think it'll be a tough game, but I think it will be very methodical for the Philadelphia Eagles on both sides of the ball.
And what the Eagles going to have to do is they're going to have to stop the run.
Yeah,
that's been one of their problems all year. When physical teams like Washington, those teams that ran the ball, New Orleans, they had success against them. And they ran downhill, double up the inside guys, and hit a crack and get like 6-7 yards, But I think that's going to be a thing. And that's the one thing I'm looking forward to seeing in this game. I want to see the Eagles D-line match up against Trent Williams and that O-line. I want to see vice versa. I want to see their D-line match up against the Eagles O-line, one of the best in the league. It's going to be a trench warfare. And whoever wins the battle of the trenches is going to win this game, no doubt. And, I think the Eagles secondary is going to give them some problems, but I also think the other secondary going to give problems too down the field to take away some guys. But I think it's going to be one in these trenches, dogfight, and if whichever team can run the ball, and that's my biggest fear for the Eagles is they're not being able to run the ball, but they are going against the number one run defense in the league. On the other side, those guys are not, I don't know if they're top 10, I don't think they are, but they have had problems against the run this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this and how those trenches get this thing done. But that's where it's going to be won at in the trenches this week. Who can get to the quarterback? Who can't? Who can stop the run? Who can't? That's what it's going to come down to, and I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Can I throw something in real quick, Philip? Do you think the fact that neither one of these teams has a sexy running back, a running back that's fine, all these running backs for both of these teams, they get to their hole, they get in that hole, they get the yards that they can, they flip the ball back to the official, and they get back up and they try to do it again. I think that your point about it being won in the trenches, going along with running backs who just about the business of running the football, that's what's going to determine this game.
No doubt, man. I just think that, I mean, both teams got good running backs. They both Pro Bowl running backs, right? So now it comes down to how well you block these other guys up. What kind of scheme you run against these other guys? Teams that has not had success against the Eagles are teams that try to run it outside. That stretch play, I don't know about the stretch play. But I know downhill, going right at the tackles, doubling the tackles up, and then creating a hole and getting what you can is going to be the key to this game. I don't think it's going to be a bunch of long runs or something like that. I'll be surprised. But I think it's going to be a dog fight. Give me 4-5 yards here or there, and the team that can stick to it the best is going to have a best chance to win this game.
And a little bit of news about this matchup. As we saw today, Charles Omenihu arrested on domestic violence charges. So I don't expect him to miss the game. I think, the NFL likes to adjudicate everything before they hand out punishment, but it's a distraction. Talk about distraction off the field. And, that's going to be something they're going to be talking about all week. You want to be talking about this game. You don't want to be talking about somebody's personal life and et cetera, during a game like this over the whole week.
And Jeff, on that subject, that's the one thing, like we told our players going to Super Bowl, do not be a distraction for your team at this time, especially the championship game and the Super Bowl. Do not be a distraction, because every year, it happens every year where a team gets this deep in playoffs or get to the Super Bowl, and there's a distraction that comes up and take all the focus away from the game plan, and now you got to worry about this idiot that made this mistake here or there. You know what I'm saying? So we always told our guys, right now, you need to home in, do what you need to do to study, prepare yourself, and no distraction, no crazy stuff this week. Let's go out and win a game.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the other game, Bengals Chiefs. All right, so I'm going to go quick back to Dre because I've been starting off with Phil recently. So, Dre, what do you think about this matchup?
Again, man, this is one that is bigger than a lot of folks think, because Kansas City is taking it personal that they have not beaten Buffalo in their last couple of matchups. I mean, last year it was Cincinnati that beat Kansas City in the AFC Championship game to go to the Super Bowl. So, folks talk about that, and it starts to resonate. And again, you've got a proud head coach. You got an offensive coordinator who just loves to win. He might not get a head coaching job. He should. But guess what? He takes things like this personal. So will it be Kansas City trying to do too much to prove that they are better than Cincinnati? Or will it them staying in their lane and figuring out the little things that Cincinnati does to them to affect a win? That's where it's going to come down to me. And then, of course, the big elephant in the room is, will Patrick Mahomes be healthy? If he's healthy, if he's out there, and if he can play, then, Kansas City's got a great shot to win this. If not, I think Cincinnati gets Kansas City again, because, again, Cincinnati, Joe Burrow is not going to make dumb mistakes. Joe Burrow is not going to turn the ball over, multiple times. And, oh, yeah, by the way, they can run the ball, and that defense can get at you. So, again, with Patrick Mahomes, I go Kansas City. Without Patrick Mahomes, Cincinnati, baby, and that's my hometown.
All right. Phil?
Man, you got no choice but to love the Bengals, man. And 2 years ago, we were talking about the possibility of the head coach being fired if he didn't at least get to the playoffs or win some regular season games. And now for him to take this team to the Super Bowl and head it back right now, in the championship game right now, that's a big accomplishment, man. And you got to take your hat off to him and his staff and his team. Joe Burrow getting happy. Joe Burrow was coming off an injury, and nobody thought they could win the Super Bowl that go to the Super Bowl that year that they went because of the injury. They thought he would come back slow and it would take some time. But he came back and he did his thing, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or if not the best. So my thing is, when you look at this game, it all comes down to if Mahomes is healthy or not. How that ankle is feeling. It's going to be only a week that he's going to have treatment on that ankle and have to go out and play. And you saw how he was during the game. It's one thing to like suck it up and play through a game and get through that game. But after that game, it's going to get so sore, so tender. It's going to be hard to walk. I can't imagine him just getting a week of treatment and it's going to be full speed ahead. Because one thing I know about the other side of the ball, they're going to touch that ankle.
Right.
They're going to rush him. They're going to sack him. They're going to twist that. They're going to twist that ankle. They're going to find out if you're healthy, and they're going to find out real fast. They're going to try to get to you. So it's up to Kansas City's whole line to keep him fresh, keep him off the ground, keep those guys away from him, so he can operate. So I'll assume they'll come out with some kind of plan, and Andy Reid and Bieniemy are two of the best play callers in the league. They'll come out with a plan to get the ball out of his hand fast, to make those the short game. The short game will come in play because they can't let him get hit or risk that chance of somebody getting out on the ground, turning his ankle, or doing something like that. So I think Kansas City is going to be ready for that. And this game all comes down to how healthy he is, if he's going to be able to play or not. But one thing about Andy Reid, like I said, you put anybody behind center, he's going to be productive. He's going to come up with a game plan, and it's going to be okay. So I'm thinking, as I look at this game and I look at these two teams and how things going in the past, Bengals they got their number. They beat them. And Joe Burrow is just a guy that knows how to beat Kansas City. So it's going to be a close game. It can go either way. But again, I'm with AJ, man. I like the Chiefs at home, but if Mahomes don't play, then I like the Bengals to win the game. But if I had to pick right now, I'm just going to say Chiefs if Mahomes is healthy.
This one's hard for me because you have a team in Cincinnati. Not only are they hot, but this is a team that Kansas City hasn't beaten with Burrow. So that's usually a bad combination. You see a team that you just can't seem to beat. I think the matchup is a hard one for Kansas City because we always question Kansas City's defense. And Cincinnati always exploits their defense. So do I think – and then the injury to Mahomes is a whole nother story. We know Kansas City is not exactly the greatest pass rush team. They leave their secondary exposed a lot. This is not the receiving core you want to leave your secondary exposed against. I don't see Mahomes making 50,000 of those run around, flip it around plays this week with that ankle. I know what it's like to play through a high ankle sprain. It's easy to go forward, backwards, hard to change direction on. You can't plant and step and turn as fast as you want. So, yeah, I'm really worried about Kansas City this matchup. I'm really inclined to go with Cincinnati going to back-to-back Super Bowls. Think about it. 2 out of the first 3 years, you could have Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl. Nobody expected this fast to turn around in Cincinnati. He's been the spark there. We've seen the talent grow around him, but he has been the spark. The line was just atrocious last year. Still made the Super Bowl. So, yeah, as much as I beat up on their coach last year, he's going to make me look like a fool by going back this year because I think they're going to pull this one out. As much as I would love to see Andy Reid go back, I would love to see Eric Bieniemy win another one and thumb his nose at people and keep telling him he's not a head coach. Well, I'll stay here and keep winning Super Bowls if you're not going to hire me as a head coach. And it's sad but true. He deserves his opportunity. I've said so many things about the hiring process when it comes to it, even when it comes to coordinators at times. It's just really, really abysmal. It is the only word I can use to describe how things go with some of these hires. But yeah, I just right now looking at the things that are going on with the injury situation, with the fact that this team just seems to have Kansas City's number. Yeah, it's in Arrowhead. They beat them in Arrowhead earlier this year. So I don't think home field matters in this case. This team is confident. Both teams are hot, but this team is confident. They've had your number, and I think that number continues, and we'll see Kansas City going on to hopefully face the Niners because I just can't see them playing the Eagles. Oh, man.
Let that go, man. Get that out your heart.
I know. I'm sorry.
Get that out your heart, man. You're going to be better if you get that out your heart.
I'm mentally scarred. It's over. It's over. I'm carrying that one to the grave. It makes it bad. It makes it even worse when Herm goes on TV and starts acting like an Eagle. That really bothers me. Herm Edwards going on there going, yeah, we the Eagles. Yeah. All right. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, get a sip of water, and we'll be back, everybody, with more of the perspective.
Hey, football fans, we have a great offer for you from one of our newest partners, FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up now for a new FanDuel account by using our special link located in the description, and you will get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That means that you can bet up to $1,000 on your first wager risk-free. FanDuel will give you the amount you wagered back in free bets if you lose. So go ahead and bet on your favorite team this Sunday, and even if they lose, you are taken care of. To claim this special offer, just click the link in the description and create a new account. Then, make your first bet on whatever you like. That's it. Win some money at FanDuel today.
And we are back with more of The Perspective. Once again, I am Jeff Barnes, it's Phil Daniels, and our special guest, Andre A.J. Jones in the house from H-Town. So, I got it all in there. I got the frat in, I got the hometown in.
I see.
Making sure you're represented. I got you covered.
I feel very welcome, Doc. I really do.
Yeah, and I'm not ever saying I'm from the Bronx, although people could probably hear that in the accent. But it's time to move on. Let's get a little closer to home. Okay, let's talk a little HBCU drama that's going on right now. Yes, I see the shirt. Oh man, and as a former student, you see the G in the background. I witnessed some of this kind of stuff go on, and I went to Grambling in '94 when Eddie Robb was still there. It didn't happen with the football program, but we were on an interim president because the last president was ousted because of financial issues. And you hear about this more than you should. And we're seeing something play out now where it started with Ed Reed. It's gone on to now the students complaining about standards overall. But we're going to talk specifically, since we're doing the sports here, about Ed Reed's situation. So Ed Reed is the newest of the NFL hires. We know it was Dion. We know it was Eddie George. At one point, so they were trying to get Marshall Faulk in there. Hugh Jackson comes down to Grambling. So BCU brings in Ed Reed. He's there for weeks. There's still negotiations going on. They finally get to the point to ratify the contract. He's already made some statements on social media. For those that don't know, he's upset with the situation, the cleanliness of the facilities. Him and his team are out there cleaning. And finally, this Saturday, they say, we're not ratifying your contract. You are not our head coach. The search continues. You have the shirt, Andre. We're going to go straight to you because how do you feel about this situation? It's one, it hits home for me.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate, and it didn't have to happen. You know, if I could get Ed Reed's ear, I would say, hey, Doc, unforced error. Imagine if he had started with rallying the student body to get out there and do that community service work that we saw earlier today and yesterday. Imagine if that was the starting point rather than the initial video and then the secondary video and then the video after that. There can be a lot of wrongs in a same situation. I feel like Ed was wrong in how he expressed his displeasure. Obviously, the university is out of pocket, man, with having those situations, especially given that, you know, all eyes are going to be on you when you bring in a name like Ed Reed. I get it that they've been through 2 hurricanes, not one. One by itself is bad, but 2. So I get it. You can't expect them to be tip-top shape given what they've been through, but you also cannot have a student body in situations like that, in conditions like that, and not give them frequent communication, frequent updates, frequent visible changes to, you know, the development or redevelopment, remodeling of the campus. There's no reason why a young man or young lady should be living in mold and mildew. And I heard the president try and nitpick mold versus mildew. Doc, yeah, that's why you're interim, and that's why you're not the permanent guy, because if that's the hill you're trying to die on, then please get out of the way. Let me pull my child out of this and let you keep talking. So again, unfortunate situation all the way around, but I hope it gets better for the students and for those kids on that campus.
Phil, what's your perspective on this?
I did listen to all the social media stuff that Ed put out, and me being a player that's known Ed as a player and how he's been, how he carry himself, Ed's always been that guy that he all about being clean. I remember there was a segment, or he spoke to the media about guys not throwing their stuff in the trash. I mean, it's right there, like the tape, and he cut the tapes off and tape off the hands and stuff like that. So he always been a guy always about cleanliness. And then, but the thing is, like when he went there, and I think it was a shock to him in what he saw. They probably could have gave more of a warning of what he was going to see. He goes there and his office is not clean. Then he goes onto the practice fields and it don't even look like a practice field. And you look at all the track stuff and how the equipment look and how bad that was. And then you look at all the trash that's on the campus, and it was a shock to him. He's a man that loves young men, loves success, loves breeding young men into success. And he went there expecting it to be all roses, and it wasn't. At least something should be done. At least your office should at least clean the man's office. You know what I'm saying? At least do that. So he got there, and he probably handled it the wrong way by going on social media and blasting the school the way he did. But I don't know what went on behind the scenes. I don't know if he talked to the people there, and they seemed like they were unwilling to listen to him and try to get some things done. It pissed him off, and it frustrated him. And some people got some people got butthurt about the truth and what he saw and what need to be done for him to get there. But to not just get together and talk it out like men or men and women, whoever's running the school, I think it's a shame because you hurt more for the student body and those recruits that was there during the weekend that he had to talk to and tell them that he was no longer the coach, and that the school, the kids were on their way to the school, and they tell the kids that they tell him that to cancel the recruiting weekend. They were already coming. They were already almost there. And so he went into his pocket. He paid money to help those to at least have something for them. He did some good things. He did a lot of good things. But he's been there for 3 weeks. So it took you 3 weeks to realize that you didn't want him to be your coach. And the first video came out probably over a week and a half ago. And it took you that long to figure out if you wanted him to be your coach or not. I just think that they could have got together and, maybe just came to a resolution, maybe got on social media together to say we're going to get some things fixed, and we come to a conclusion that we've had storms come through. We need to clean some things up. Ed knows that now. We know that. We came to a resolution that we're going to do everything we can to get this fixed and make sure that Ed's comfortable being the head coach at Bethune-Cookman. So I just think both sides has got blame in this and how it was handled. I know Ed started it with the social media thing, but I just, there's a big part of me wonder if there were some things said that he said, this is the only way I'm going to bring recognition to this problem because they're not listening to me. You know what I'm saying? Because he didn't come out right away when he first got there, because he's been there 3 weeks. This only happened last week that we heard about all this stuff and he came out. So my thing is, I think cooler heads could have prevailed. But you look at the running back, what he wrote on Twitter, and you look at the student body, they still there picking up trash, doing the things that he wanted them to do. They protest for him. They protesting for him right now. I just think they got to get together, because my thing is, what student gonna want to come to Bethune-Cookman now after all this going on, after all this national attention? Who gonna want to come there now? And you got recruits that just signed there that may want to leave now. I just think it hurts the whole program for this to not get rectified, and that they don't come together with a resolution to make sure that Ed is good and bring him back in there.
Yeah, I think, sometimes we're our own worst enemy, right? When I first stepped foot on Gramblin's campus in 1994, here I am coming down from the Bronx. I've been on several college campuses. My brother went to school in Pennsylvania. I've seen some of the bigger white schools. And I had high expectations. I didn't even go to Grambling. Once I got the letter that said I get to go down there and get a chance to try and walk on for Eddie Robinson, that's all I cared about. I have family that are Norfolk State alumni. Come to Norfolk State. No, I got the G that was it. Walk on campus, get off that Greyhound bus after 2 days, and I'm like, there it is, Grambling. And you walk around, and I'm like, none of this is what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so to set the stage, if you go to Grambling now, it's a totally different campus. It's amazing. I don't recognize it from what I've seen. I haven't been back. I have to go back there and actually see it in person. But seeing, you know, just Google Earthing it and seeing now where my old dorm is gone. The 7-story pinchback hall has been torn down. The old stadium grandstands where we used to go out and play ball when we weren't supposed to is torn down. But it was a different life, right? The buildings were pretty old. You know, they still had the old school rules where Main Street divided the campus in half. The ladies' dorms were one side, the men's dorms on the other. You didn't cross Main Street after midnight. So it was a big culture shock from what I had seen at other campuses coming down there, and to see the changes they've made because they kind of got into that same rut. We saw where the kids didn't want to play because the facilities were run down. They said, we're not going out there and playing. We're going to forfeit this game to get you to bring awareness to the fact that you need to take care of us, your athletes that committed to come play ball for you. In this situation, I think they got caught up in the name Ed Reed. Anybody that knows Ed Reed is outspoken. He is not going to hold his tongue. If you think Deion's outspoken, you haven't met Ed Reed. Right? Ed Reed is going to tell you everything that is wrong with it. Okay? But you're bringing Ed Reed from the U to Bethune-Cookman, two totally different worlds.
Right.
And you can't come in and say, okay, this is our guy. We want you to come in here and you're going to make things right, but this is what you have. And you can't complain about it. See, that's the problem. I think what the problem was he did complain and he felt he wasn't being heard. So he did what Ed Reed does. If you're not going to hear me, everybody's going to hear me. And he went on social media. And if you're not prepared, I think one of the things I ripped them for was they put in the statement, we're going to dedicate those resources to the kids. So you didn't have the money because the money is obviously a sticking point in this. Okay. So somebody said, well, you know, they'd have the money for Deion in Colorado. No, but they knew they could allocate it when it came time to budget and get his contract signed. If you didn't have the money, don't make the offer.
Right.
Right. So that's a whole nother story. All right. So you have that situation. You have the fact that he's coming from Miami to your facilities, which are nowhere near in comparison. Okay. He's trying to bring resources to get your facilities there. But if he doesn't feel he's getting the cooperation, he's going to lash out. And he lashed out. Now, I'm sorry. I'm very prideful when it comes to my work. So if I sign on and come somewhere, my money better be right when I start. I'm not the kind of person that's going to wait a month to figure out whether I'm getting paid or not. That's just me. I don't like getting stiffed on a bill. So, but it also goes for optics, right? You know, I know a lot of people that were defending VCU showed Hugh Jackson and the football team doing the same thing at Grambling. Yeah, see, Hugh Jackson doesn't have a problem doing that at Grambling. Show me where we see the guys over here in South Florida cleaning the campus. They're not doing it because they have their facilities team in order. So if we can't clean the facilities properly, that's a problem. If our facilities aren't even up to halfway decent standards, that's a problem. And it's a problem where you can't get mad at the guy for coming in and seeing this and going, I'm supposed to fix this? And if you don't want to hear them, it makes it worse. So we're our own worst enemy in this case because we knew we were getting a guy who's volatile. We gave him enough, fuel to go off. He goes off. Now we're mad at him. That's on both sides. Ed, yes, you could have done it differently. I know who Ed Reed is. He wasn't going to do it differently. That's who he is the whole time. But you can't bring in as I told somebody, you can't go to the dealership with no deposit and 500 credit and expect to walk off of there with a top of the line car. It is not happening. And that's exactly what they did. They came up and said, come here. We don't have your money straight. We'll figure that part out. We don't have the facility straight. We'll figure that part out. And a whole bunch of promises, and there's no check. That's not going to fly. That's not how we do business. I've said it. I was scouting the South Florida Howard game a couple of months ago and talking to one of the ADs there. We're talking about the classics and the funding for the classics. And I said, these deals are not negotiated properly. If we're coming away with these small amounts, we are not negotiating these deals properly. First of all, the classics should not be an individual deal.
Right.
All right. They should be every conference in the as an HBCU conference should come together and to market them because you have more power as a group than you do individually. You get shortchanged individually.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't even be paying for the stadium if you get the TV deal to cover it. And it's just like there are so many things so poorly done. And it's like if we say anything, we're wrong. It's like we can talk about the underfunding from the government. We could talk about all that stuff. But we have to fix our own problems in-house too. And it was like we're not allowed to fix them. We're not allowed to air them out. So they just continue. We shouldn't be doing things the way Eddie Robinson did them 50 years ago. This is 2023.
Right.
We have more resources than Robinson had and Pete Richardson had and all of those other coaches that were there 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's time for us to step our own game up, negotiate better TV deals. I like the fact they're doing the HBCU Go thing, but it's got to be more coalition. I tried to preach that. It went on deaf ears. Because I tried to pitch a HBCU network. You got an SEC network. Why don't we have an HBCU network that shows CAIA, MEAC, SWAC, all that? If it's not coming from the money in the room, nobody wants to hear it.
Yeah.
So we're our own worst enemy sometimes.
Yeah. And Jeff, you just said it. Now everybody want to talk about, President Trump signed this bill for $250 million. If really and truly it was just a bill that needed to be renewed, he probably had a little bit on it, but I don't think he did. I think
he didn't add a dime to it. Didn't add one dime to it.
Not one dime. But people want to think that he did because he signed a bill that needed to be renewed.
Right.
Okay. $250 million for all these HBCUs just ain't enough. My thing is, man, we got billions of dollars to spend for wars and helping people out with wars, but we can't give a couple of billion to the HBCUs to help them out. And the sad part about it is us. It's the blacks that are always left out, and nobody wants to help out. Nobody wants to do the right thing. But man, how about at least give $1 billion? $1 billion will go a long way. Let's just quadruple what you're giving already and help them out. You know what I'm saying? Because these schools need it. You look at all the issues that Deion had at Jackson State. Now you see it at Bethune-Cookman. Other HBCUs having the same thing. It's probably something worse than Bethune-Cookman out there. But they get through. They get through it. So my thing is, man, the government needs to step up and give these HBCUs more funding and stop messing around talking about what you did with this $250 that a bill you just signed. That's all you did because it was about to expire. And I see people all the time on Twitter talking about that, how much money he gave. He didn't give not one penny. He just signed the bill. That's it. So my thing is, I feel bad that our own government is not willing to help. Everybody see what's going on. Everybody hear about the Ed Reed situation. It's hard not to hear about that. It's everywhere. Okay? So if you hear about it, you know what's going on, well, do something. Government, do something. You know what I'm saying? You got another country fighting the war. You do a lot for them. You send billions and billions and billions of dollars for them, but you ain't did nothing for HBCUs. Just give them some money. Just give it. My thing is that we got our own problems in this country. We got our own problems in this country. Start helping our other country fix the things that you need to fix in this country, and it'll be better. But ain't nobody out there willing to do it. So it just frustrates me every time I see that, the underfunding of these HBCUs and what they go through. I went to University of Georgia, where, beautiful campus. They ain't have no problems, no paper nowhere, no trash nowhere.
State University.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
These HBCUs got to act like your grandma's house, where she had to clean every day to make sure that thing stayed all right. She may have to put a pot down or something to catch the water coming out the ceiling. You know what I'm saying? That's what the HBCUs remind me of. So my thing is, the government just got to do more. And we got people in the government that look like us that can do more, can go out and ask for for them to do more, but they won't. It's just so sad.
Yeah, take it to the next step, though. Once it comes in from the government, the state government's got to turn it loose.
Yeah.
Because they will reallocate money real fast and in a hurry somewhere it don't need to go. If it was sent down for an HBCU, then it needs to go to that HBCU. And then us running the campuses, because I'm telling you, after I heard the interim president speak, you had his pride versus Ed's pride. And you know when two prideful men get together, you ain't going to get no resolutions.
No,
it's not going to be a good resolution. So, this brother tried to come in like, oh, yes, and da. No, you had a whole lot of pride in it. So when that money comes in, those boards, those regents, those governing bodies have to make sure that money gets where it is supposed to go. And, oh, yeah, by the way, there have been too many schools, Grambling included, where you had administration feeling like they wanted to put the athletic department in their place. So you're not going to give them this. You're not going to give them that. You're not going to let them, act like they run. If you get a good working relationship with your athletic department as a campus president, a college president, or a regent, or, a governing body, guess what? They're going to help you make money, not cost you and stop you from making money.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that some of our public high schools look way better than some of the HBCUs.
Bruh.
Yeah.
I lived down the street from Katy High School where they literally was trying to pass a $250 million bond bill so that they could build a new stadium. Now, mind you, I ain't got kids in that school, but I every now and then want to run some stadium stairs. They told me, no, you can't use it for that. I said, well, guess what? You won't be getting any of my taxes, and you definitely won't be getting my vote on this bond bill. But you talk about $250 million for a high school, and they talk about $250 million for how many HBCUs?
All HBCUs.
Yeah. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. And, it's part of it is, we got to put the pressure on, right? It's up to us as the everyday Joes to do more than just say, okay, we're going to complain about it, and 5 minutes later, my attention is somewhere else. Right. No, you remember it every time you vote. Remember it when they're out there trying to get your vote. Well, this is what you did the last time. That's not enough. And we're not going to give you our vote till you start to make good on some of these promises. Just re-signing the same bill ain't enough. I guarantee you Ohio State has gotten increases for their endowment. I guarantee you Florida State has gotten increases for their endowment. I guarantee you USC has gotten their increases. It's time for the HBCUs to get their piece. And it's also time for the administration to make sure you're taking care of your athletic department that you use as an ATM to bring money in. Because, we've seen that happen. Like I said, from New York, I got to see Grambling all my life. They stopped going up there in 95, 96, and it ain't been the same. Why? Because you were at a national face by making that trip up to New York to play Hampton. They stopped doing it. They're finally doing it again. But the decision wasn't made because they didn't feel that it was in the best interest of the university. It was in the best interest of the budget not to go to New York. And it hurt them overall because now you weren't getting the same kids out of the Northeast.
Right.
So, it's something. This situation's brought to light a lot of issues. I just hate that we talk about things being divisive politically. Well, talking about HBCUs is divisive because a lot of people that are very supportive of them don't like you talking bad about them.
Yeah, man.
They immediately point out everything else. I said, but we got our own internal problems we got to fix here. You can't fix the outside of the house without fixing the inside. We got to fix the inside too. Address those issues. And they hate it when you do that.
Yeah.
They hate it when you do. They don't want to talk about it. But I think the one thing is they are historically Black universities. They had a specific purpose when they were founded.
Yeah.
They are now really full-fledged colleges. And it's time that we start treating them like what they are. When it's not the industrial Negro normal. It's Grambling State University. You have to treat it as such. If you're going to pull a kid out of the class because he's $500 short in his tuition, We can't sit there and say, "Oh, we're just 400 years of struggle. We stick together." No. This is a university. We have to find ways to find revenue if they're not going to give it to us.
Right.
Okay. It's time to start thinking business-like because it is a business. It is maybe non-for-profit, but it is a business overall. We're thinking about the bottom line. We can talk about this all night, but we got a couple more segments to go. The other half of the segment and one more segment to go. So we're going to go from college drama back to the pros. We talked about the tough loss for the Bills. And let's talk about the drama that happened during that game. We saw it if you all over TV. Diggs goes off on Josh Allen on the sideline. End of the game, packs up and runs out of the locker room. They had to basically convince him to come back to the locker room. Let's talk about that situation. Do you think this is repairable? Do you think this is just frustration over the playoffs? What do you think this goes after this with Buffalo? Let's talk this. Yeah, go ahead, Phil.
I feel like, it's repairable. I mean, you're talking about one of the best players on the team, and they'll get together. They'll talk it out. They'll figure it out. But one thing that Diggs can't do, man, is let his frustration get the best of him. If you're going to say you're a team, we're a team, we together, we win together, we lose together, then that's like what you got to do. You got to win together, you got to lose together. And you one of the best players on the team, one of the leaders of the team. And what kind of example are you setting for the young guys that saw you run out the locker room pouting like you're a little taller? It don't do any good. So he just got to just get back together with everybody, talk to everybody on the team, the coaches, the players, and just win them back over and just say that he was frustrated. He was frustrated. That's what it is. I mean, he go out there and play hard every game. You know that. We know he gonna get the best out of him. You're gonna get the best out of him every game. He was just frustrated. But you can't let your frustration get the best of you and start running up out of the locker room, not want to listen to the speech of the coach or whoever, the end results, you know what I'm saying? So my thing is, he just got to figure it out, man, get with everybody, apologize, and keep it moving. And I think he'll be okay once they get together. And then the team realize that, you know what, this guy give us everything he has on the field. He didn't get balls that he felt like he should have got. He was frustrated with the quarterback, everything. But you can't let nobody see that. Even on the sideline, you don't never let nobody see you fussing with nobody, man. Keep a cool head. And my thing is never panic, man. When you panic, think about them young guys that's watching you. What they gonna do? They gonna panic too. So and then that's how it's gonna go. You got to fix that. You got to get better at handling yourself during those times when things don't go your way. You lose games. You got to be a better. Pretty much, you got to be a better person when you lose than when you win, because there's a lot of things that you can say or do that you got to hold in and hold back.
I think AJ has some technical difficulties. We'll see if he gets back on. This situation I think is going to be a watch and see for me, because when you are a receiver who's already had a rift with one team, and granted it was financials, right? He bought it out of Minnesota over money. They weren't going to pay him his money. So he said, it's best for me to leave. Well, now here you are. You're at odds with how this game went down with your quarterback, and then you leave. So perception is usually the first thing that people go by. They perceive it as you ran out on one team for your money, you're running out on this one for your catches. And this is how they start to build the narrative of diva receiver. Okay, you're going to be the next TO. You're going to start running around here now. You're going to be the next, Ochocinco. What about you? What about us? This team is in this situation because he's there. Their quarterback improved because he got Diggs. It allowed him to open up this offense. Along when he got Diggs, he got Cole Beasley. Well, Cole Beasley was gone. He was still performing. So Diggs was a huge piece of this. Gabe Davis being drafted was a big piece of this. Dalton Knox is a big piece. But the straw that stirred this drink that allowed Josh Allen to become the Josh Allen he is because he got Diggs. It opened up everything. If there's an issue there, people are going to look at this. And they're going to wait for the next thing that happens. If there's another thing that makes it look like they're not on the same page, they're going to take this and run with it. And it's going to continue to build the narrative. So they got to kill this quick, right? If they believe that this is repairable, They got to go into this offseason. They got to squash this. They got to work all offseason on trying to get this on-field performance together. And it's got to be seamless next year, because if they come out in 3 or 4 games in, he comes back and is, there's a struggle, and it looks like there's a heated discussion, not even altercated, just a heated discussion. I think overall that's going to be an issue that everybody's just going to continue to feed on. We saw how this played out. It played out on camera on the sideline, then the reports of him leaving and having to be drawn back to the locker room. They'll isolate you out of the locker room after a while. We left a guy in the Bronx when we had to go play a game in Philly because he was like, I don't know if we're going to win. Well, you go stay your butt right there. We're going to go win this game, and we won it. And when he came back, it's like, oh, great, guys, can't wait to play this week. They were like, oh, no, bro, we don't need you. We won without you. We don't need you. And he cut himself. So there's going to be a certain amount of time. Granted, this is all about money. He's helping these guys get their money and accomplish their goals. But if it comes down to the point where it continues to be another issue after another issue, they're going to start to look at him like, dude, do we really need you? Mm-hmm. Regardless how much you help us, do we really need you? Because now it's starting to turn into drama we don't need. AJ, how you feel about this one? I'm glad you're back.
Sorry about that. We got bad weather going through here in Houston, so
gotcha.
But no, I think it's fixable. I think that Josh and Stephon Diggs have the kind of connection, if you will, just from everything that I've heard, colleagues I've got in that area that cover the team, that they'll be okay. I think that what Diggs needs to do is get out of the off social media and just deal with whatever his issue is with Josh, if that's who it's with, if it's with Dorsey, the offensive coordinator, if it's with, McDermott, the head coach. But you're not going to win the battles in social media. He's so busy trying to, fix his image there and battle back, or not battle, but ask questions of fans. And right now, your problem is not with the fans. Your problem is in the building. So if he can get that focus and then they go ahead and hash it out and work it out, it's definitely fixable. I think they're a different team without him, so I hope that they fix it. But we'll see. We'll see how things play out. And fortunately, they don't have another game to play for a while. So this is one that they need to get on right now so that it doesn't carry over into the offseason and then into the to the next season.
All right. So our last segment is what we like to call freestyle. So basically, you get to pick whatever topic you want. You get to let us know how you feel about it. You give us your perspective. So once again, AJ, since you're the guest, man, you get carte blanche, man. Tell us your perspective, man.
In fact, I need y'all to help me, fellas. I need Jeff. I need Big Phil. I need y'all to help me, man. This organization that I cover down here, the Houston Texans, you have 2 head coaches that got 1 year. 1 year. And, oh, yeah, by the way, they happen to be black. You got an owner that is saying now he's going to take a more hands-on approach to help selecting the next coach. Well, guess what? He's the son of the owner. Under him, they've had 4 head coaches and 4 general managers. Under his dad, 2 head coaches and 2 general managers. So the fact that they can look season ticket holders in the face, they can look us as the media in the face and say, oh, we got this. We're going to do a better job this time around, where 2 seasons in a row, you've got a one-and-done head coach. And again, both of those coaches had more experience than anybody in the building almost combined. So why are we trusting you to turn this organization around? Oh, yeah, Nick Caserio, come on, man, please. He put those rosters together. He was the one that said Davis Mills and these guys would have the best chance to be the quarterbacks of this team. So you gave these coaches nothing, and you expected them to do something with just a tough roster. That's my freestyle, man. Y'all help me. Talk me off the ledge because I'm ready to jump.
Oh, no. You can jump all you want because I'm jumping right along with you. I don't know what the heck they're doing. How do you expect to improve this roster? You brought in 1 head coach, fired him in 1 year. You brought in another coach, fired him in 1 year. Those coaches have 2 different ideas of how to run that team. You can't build a team in 1 year. So realistically, what are you supposed to accomplish in a year when you don't even have the roster you want. This is the NFL. This ain't college where you could just wipe the kids out, recruit a whole new class, and go from there. And even that doesn't happen as fast. You have to draft. You have guys under contract. You have guys you have to sign. There's so many elements to an offseason that you can't fix a team in 1 year. Every coach gets hired with a 3-year plan. You didn't even get past year 1 before you're firing these guys. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no common sense to it. And I can understand why people in your market are freaking losing their minds, because it is baffling how you can sit there and make sense of what they've done the past 2 years. There's absolutely no sense to it whatsoever. It doesn't show any patience. It doesn't show any process. And it just shows that you're going by the seat of your pants.
Right.
Phil.
I mean, it's tough, man, especially when it's 2 black coaches that got fired, both from after the first year, not having a chance to really just build that team and build that roster and get the guys in that need no quarterback. Don't really have a true quarterback, a guy that can carry a team to a Super Bowl. And it just seems like they always say that, we always get the worst jobs, and that's just how it's been so far. But my thing is, man, I just like it takes time to build anything. Y'all know that.
Right.
It ain't gonna be like Doug Peterson go out to the playoffs in the first year. The team pretty much was already there, built, had the quarterback, had your running back, he had everything in place. Especially on the offense, both sides of the ball, you pretty much had all those draft picks all those years. You had everything in place. This is a totally different situation. You've been trading guys away, and you hadn't rebuilt that team at all to give the coaches a chance to come in there and coach. So my hope, really, truly, if they get it right, get a coach in there and let him be there for 3-4 years to build that thing, to get it where it needs to be. Because you got to realize the fans are getting frustrated. They feel like it's the same thing gonna happen next year. 1 year we ain't patient enough. And then they just got to make better decisions, man. And my thing is, man, it hurt when you look at the 2 coaches, they're brothers and they're black. But my thing is, even if they did this to any other coaches that wasn't black, it still ain't right. You know what I'm saying?
True.
I mean, give them a chance to come in, at least get the roster right and give them a chance to go in.
And it's hard not to see the race factor, because when you had Bill O'Brien there, you had a black GM, you replaced the GM so that coach can make the decisions on personnel that he wanted. He came in, he did that, right? And he destroyed your franchise. He put it so far back that you've been grasping at straws ever since. So you bring in a coach of color, you fire him after a year. You bring in an experienced coach of color, you fire him after a year. So every black face that you've put in authority, you fired. But you gave Bill O'Brien, who had no real personnel experience at the NFL level, because he was a college coach. He did run a program in college, 2 different worlds. Although they're getting drawn together with the transfer portal and NIL, but nevertheless, you gave him more power. The guy that built the team for him to win, you fired so he can have the power. That doesn't make any sense. And the only thing that the commonality in all of those firings is the color of those guys' skin. Okay, so yeah, it does have racial undertones. So if it's not, Lucy, you got some splaining to do, because the guys that are getting tossed out of there quickly are all the dark faces in the room, not the guys who are going in there and messing it up.
Yeah. And to Phil's point, man, we take the worst jobs, we get the worst jobs, and we get the least amount of time to turn those jobs around. And I'm serious. D'Amico Ryans, I love what he's doing. I don't want him to come here and get tainted by this situation. You've got an owner who doesn't really know what he's doing. All he wants to do is be New England of the West. And y'all know this. The only person you can be is yourself. You can pretend to be somebody else, but you ain't going to be good at pretending to be somebody else. So, the fact that that's his mentality just makes me wonder if this franchise is ever going to be what it can be under his ownership and under his leadership.
And who you hurt for the most is the players that's there playing.
That's true. That's true.
Because this is things you see. This is what you see in college. Every year getting a whole new system. Got to run a whole new system here. Got to learn a whole new system. Every year. The terminology changes in the
Right.
new system.
Right.
So it's a lot of like confusing things going on, and that's why you got to fix it. You got to get somebody in there that can be there for at least 2, 3 years, 4 years, and get that thing on the right track, and then go from there. Now, if they don't do the job in 3 years, that's enough time.
That's
3, 4
different.
years,
That's
then
different.
that's totally
Right.
different.
That's different.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm done freestyling. That was on my heart. That was in my.
Listen, that's the beauty of it. It's your topic. If it's something close to the heart, then by all means, trust me, mine is too. Phil, what's your freestyle this week?
AJ, you and Joe could be friends on that one, but that was his 2 weeks ago, I think. Same subject. So mine this week is, guys, like, it's coaching. Man, when are we going to go back to the fundamentals and teach guys how to tackle the right way? Man, I watched these playoff games. I watched the college, my Georgia Bulldogs in the playoffs and in the championship game. I watched every game I watch. I see it all the time. We are not teaching fundamentals of tackling, like running your feet through contact, wrapping up. If you just run your feet, that alone we both gonna be on the ground. We just run our feet. Stopping your feet, letting guys break, tackle, and keep running. And the other thing is, like, when we chase the quarterback out the pocket, everybody want to dive at a leg or stop and dive at a leg, knowing that 99% of the time or 90% of the time we're gonna miss it. Just keep running. The quarterback, I ain't never seen a quarterback accurate when he's running and trying to throw it on the run. I've never seen a quarterback that accurate. So just keep running. He have to pull up to throw it at some point. You're going to get it. You're going to hit him. It's going to be a bad pass. It's going to be a sack. It's going to be something. But we don't teach those fundamentals no more. And I just see it throughout the playoff games. I see guys missing tackles. Guys don't know how to get the head across. Some people now teaching to get the head on the backside and just run through them, with your arms in front. But I never taught it that way. I always teach get your head across and keep running. Run your feet on contact until we hit the ground. That's how I go. And that's how it's always been. So we got to get back as coaches to teaching fundamentals, especially at the high school level. I coached high school at Bishop Shanahan for 2 years. And I remember the first time I got out in the field and we had a game, they missed so many tackles. Well, I put drills together, and we didn't miss tackles the rest of the year. We probably missed one, if anything. We ran our feet through contact. We got guys on the ground. And we got to get back to teaching the basic fundamentals of football. Tackling, running to the ball, all that stuff is important. Every little inch, every little detail of football is important. That's why I got to get back in and coach, man. I love coaching. I love giving guys the things they need to be successful. And when I was with the Eagles, we didn't miss tackles. That's why we probably won the Super Bowl. But we was good at tackling guys, getting guys on the ground. But now you look at it, man, guys to stop the feet, or they're scared to go in there and put the body in there. You know what I'm saying? It's understandable sometimes, according to how you're coming in there. But at the same time, once you make contact with a guy and you wrap him up, run your feet. Please run your feet, and you'll get the tackle. You won't miss tackles at all, and you'll be a hero.
Yeah, and you're right. It starts at the high school and youth levels.
Yeah.
I coach at the high school level now. I don't ever remember in high school us tackling a wheel, right? And I think that's part of the problem. We're teaching tackling where they're not running their feet. They're trying to gate a roll. They're trying to wrap and spin down.
And swing, yep.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, I hate it because I'm so head across, right? Hands at the hips, ready to go, guns to the sky, drive your hips, run your feet, right? Our DB coach used to put us on the one-man sled, have us take our 3 read steps, come up like on a run, and we're hitting the sled like we're tackling, rolling the hips, running the feet, right? It taught us to run our feet. So when we had those backs coming outside, you had to hit them and run your feet. It's something that stuck with me all the way up through my career. It's not something that they're doing now. I know they don't want the head across anymore because of the concussion, so they want near hip. But they're teaching near hip with that turn, and it's almost getting the kids diving at everything. And it's like it's hard to watch because when you're that old school coach who's taught that way, you're watching it now going, this is not how we were taught. But I get what they're trying to do. I think certain things, I've had one concussion in my whole playing career, and it came in Bull in the Ring. It didn't come in a game. It didn't come in a scrimmage. It came when we were doing one of those crazy ass drills that somebody put together and thought was gold. And realistically, all it was meant to do was to take the fear of contact out of you. But and how mine happened was my chin strap, one of the clips broke, and the helmet came down on my nose. And I had a concussion. I had a headache. Luckily, I didn't lose consciousness. I didn't have any memory loss. I remembered everything was quite lucid. Just had this headache that lasted a good 24 hours. But the drills that we did made sense, and the stuff that we did as far as tackling made sense. It was meant for your safety. It was meant for the other players' safety. I think a lot of the leg injuries we get are because we're doing this tackling a different way, where bodies are getting twisted on top of bodies. The Tony Pollard injury is not one of those that's normal. It's a trail position tackle that happens. But when you get a guy who squares up with you, hits you and twists you, and your leg is planted underneath, and now his body's coming down on your planted leg, that's tackling. That's bad tackling resulting in an injury. I think that's what we're trying to fix, but we're going about it the wrong way at the youth level. It's transitioning up to the college level. It's transitioning up to the pro level, where guys already are going, well, I'm trying not to get hurt because I want to get paid by staying on the field. So they're making these business decisions, as Dion used to say.
Right.
Well, they're becoming way too common. So I think that's the other part of it. You're a poor tackler in high school. You're a poor tackler in college, although you may have been good by those standards. Now you're playing against the best athletes in the world, and it shows how poor a tackler you are. And it's something, unfortunately, you were seeing it. The guys that come in with the flipper tackles, they don't wrap nothing. It's just this flying in there. That was all stuff that was coached out of us in high school. So I don't know. Like I said, some of it is part of it is grown men, making their own decisions. But yeah, it starts early to me. If you're not teaching it early, they're never going to do it right.
You're right. That's why I made our high school guys, like you said, sled, tackling sled. I made them drive it 3-4 steps before you take it down. That's the only way you're going to get them to do it the right way, you know what I'm saying? So we just got to go back to the fundamentals and just taking the sled and have guys drive it 2-3 steps and then take it down. That teach them how to run through the tackle and get it on the ground.
Yeah. What's interesting, Big Phil, I was always on the offensive side of the ball. I was offensive coordinator high school level. I can break down game film like nobody's business. And if I see that a team has tackling problems, guess what I'm telling those wide receivers and those runners? You can just run through that. You better not come down on that first hit.
No doubt.
You better not. And again, like you said, the modern age, or if you will, that barrel roll tackle, just grab hold to them and then twist your body. They're gonna come down with you. You run through that too. Somebody coming to bear hug you, don't let them. Use your hands, get their hands off you, and you just keep running through that. And we saw that. We saw that all weekend long. We saw a lot of guys running through a lot of time. And you saw guys continuing to move the pile because nobody took those legs out from underneath them. So, there are a lot of fundamentals that are getting overlooked, if you will. And people like to blame it on the shortened, training camp and the shortened mini camps and all that kind of stuff. And they don't hit as often as they hit. Now, it's all about what you're teaching them when they can hit, not how long they do it, but what you're teaching them, the fundamentals that you're teaching them when they can hit.
Yeah, that's why a lot of people, when Greg Williams stuff came out, they heard the term kill the head, the body will die.
Right.
What he was saying was when you hit a running back or you hit somebody carrying the ball, get their head turned. Don't let them keep the head going forward because they're going to gain yards.
Right.
Turn the head, get the heads turned the other way, they're going to go down. You get a tackle. That's what he was meant by that. Some people went that he teaching concussions, he teaching this. No, guys how to tackle and keep guys from going forward, get more yards.
Correct.
All right. So, from my perspective, we're gonna go down to the Lone Star State, but the northern corner up there in Dallas, and I'm gonna talk to the Dallas Cowboys faithful. What is wrong with you people? I'm sorry. I've been a lifelong, and I don't like to put it out there because I like my stuff to be objective. I don't want anybody to say you're saying that because you're a Cowboy fan. I've been a Cowboy fan since 1979. Okay, so I've seen them in their highs. I've seen them in their lows. I've seen them in their highs and lows again. When you have something good, you don't mess it up. This team is good. 12 wins in back-to-back years. They have players in positions that you need. You suffered a playoff loss. Let's think about that. Okay, you won your first round game. You go to the second round, you lose by 7. There was a team that lost the night before in your same division that lost by 31. Okay, there's another team in your division that can't seem to sniff the playoffs right now. They got a lot of problems. You got people burning the jerseys. I get it. It's hard being a Cowboy fan You can't celebrate your team. People make fun of you. You lose. They're definitely on you twice as much. I get it. It's a hard life. However,
Stephen A.
and he makes money doing that.
Yeah.
You know, it's the average fan that don't make anything off it. It's just they can't stand Dallas, and they make their lives to make a Cowboys fan life miserable. I get it, but the extremes I'm seeing from Cowboy fans is just ridiculous. Fire the coach, the quarterback sucks, get rid of him. This guy sucks, get rid of him. We had no quarterback. Remember 5-11 3 years in a row? Right? Remember when you couldn't get to the playoffs when your old quarterbacks that were past their prime, like Testaverde and Bledsoe? You lucked out with Romo. He almost ended up as a Bronco. Okay, and even then you didn't respect him when he was there. He was carrying you to 8-8 teams with teams that were rebuilding. All right, they hate Jason Garrett. Oh, he was a horrible coach. He went 8-8 with teams that were rebuilding. Dave Campo couldn't sniff 8-8 with the teams that he was rebuilding with. You know, there's so many things about that franchise that are wrong. It's been 28 years since you've been to a Super Bowl. It's 28 years since you've been to a conference championship. But guess what? You may have had 5 or 6 teams that were capable of getting that far in those 28 years. You haven't had 28 teams capable of doing that. There's a realistic point of being a fan where you have to look at your team season and say, you know what? We didn't win it all, but darn it, we were a good team. I could live with that. There's nothing wrong with saying that. You're a fan. You're not the player. That's the player's mentality. That's the coach's mentality to say we're winning a championship or bust, because we have to think that way because we have to compete to be the best. That's the player's mentality. That is not a fan mentality. Wow. The fan mentality is to appreciate what is in front of you while you have it. Because when you back down, because everybody goes back down to being 3-13, 3-14 now with the 17-game season, 1-16. You don't want to see that again, right? You'll really be unhappy then. You won't show up for games. You won't turn the game on. So appreciate what you have. They are competing for Super Bowls. It doesn't happen every year. Stop lying to yourselves and thinking that every year you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Not every team does. If everybody says that in the beginning of the season, this is our year. You go through a regular season to earn your spot. Your team earned their spot, and they lost in the second round humbly. Right? It was a tough game. Let's face it, it was a tough game. They lost to a darn good team. They lost. They didn't play the perfect game. Nobody plays a perfect game every week in the playoffs. That's not how it goes. You just want them to win. They didn't win. There's nothing wrong with those guys. They're the ones who are hurting more than you are. You're burning jerseys. What are you burning a jersey for? Do you think that's hurting the guy whose jersey you're burning? He's hurting because he just played 19 games and didn't accomplish the goal that he set out for himself. That's what's hurting him, not you burning his jersey in your backyard. You look like a fool. It is nothing but a me attention, look at me stuff. Stop making it about you. If you really love that team, you make it about the team. It ain't about you. You know, I stopped being a fan of a certain franchise because they treated their best player like garbage, and they still treat him like garbage. After what he accomplished, he did for them for over almost 20 years of his career. And it's one of my favorite players of all time, and it's a different league, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm not a fan of that league right now. It's out of garbage. But that's my opinion about the NBA. They don't reflect the views of Team NBA sports media. But nevertheless, it's just the fact that you're a fan. I get it. It's short for fanatical. Doesn't mean you have to be fanatical. Right? It means you just have to appreciate your team, right? Those guys, whether you think highly of their worth or not, bust their end. I talked about a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the injuries from playing this game. Okay? They put a lot on the line. You were just talking about DeMar Hamlin. His life was on the line. There's a lot on the line for those guys every week. Appreciate what they do. Value what they do, because when it's over for them, it's over. You get to be a fan for life. They don't get to play forever. There's a limited window they get to compete for championships. It hurts them 30 times more than it does you. And I need you to really, really appreciate that, because then you don't see the nonsense we see online with the fighting in the stadiums, the burning of jerseys for no darn reason, the trolling people online and family members. And it's what leads to this ridiculous culture we have of fan behavior right now. All right. Be a fan, yes, but don't be that knucklehead we see on TV, on the internet, breaking your TV set, doing stupid stuff. Because all it is just look at me. I'm upset. I'm being a big baby. And I'm saying you're being a big baby. Okay? It's all it is. Right? Respect your team.
Let me add to that.
Yeah.
That's well put by you.
Very well
See,
put.
when fans think that the game is more important to them than those players who went out there and sweat and been through all those practices and been through all those injuries and training room and, having to tape up and take medicines just to play. When fans think the game is more important to them than the player, then they're dead wrong. They're dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They don't ever think about that. You know what I'm saying? What these players go through. Nobody goes out in the game to try to lose. Nobody. And the thing is, as long as you're making playoffs, especially with the Dallas, they've been in playoffs. As long as you're making the playoffs, you're that close to getting to a Super Bowl or winning one. Right. You're that close. All you got to do is keep chopping wood, and one year, it's going to pop for you. It's going to happen. And listen, the longer you wait, the bigger the celebration. That's how I look at it. The longer you wait, the bigger the celebration. You don't want to wait, of course. Yeah, y'all want it right now, but that's how it goes. It's sports. The other team get paid to stop you and do things too. You're not going to win every game, so stop going out here. And what the hell is the TV doing to you guys? You just broke a perfectly good TV that you watch. You got other shows to watch, and now you got to go buy a new TV because, like Jeff said, you want attention. That's all it is. I saw a dude running over with his truck.
Right,
TV. What the TV do? You know what I'm saying? You got to go buy another TV. You got to go buy another TV where the players collect their last check and they straight. You know what I'm saying? So you just hurt yourself. You ain't hurt nobody but yourself. So, you put that perfectly, man, and add on to that, Jeff, insult to injury. I did cite Bledsoe 4 times when they played up in Washington, and I tied a team record, so I had to throw that in.
And I'm sure he was right there where you expected him to be.
He was right there. Hey, inside the pocket, don't run, be right where I want you to be. Hey, with no Mike Vick there, I was good.
Which tackle did you beat? Was it?
I can't remember the guy's name. I think they had a backup that game. I treated him like a backup.
Was it Colombo?
It wasn't Colombo. I played with Colombo in Chicago, actually. But it wasn't him. I think it was a young dude that took over for that game. And, man, let me tell you a story. I didn't have no sacks at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
I feel they ran the ball pretty much first half and did some things. The ball came out quick. So, I did tip the first ball of the game for an interception. For when I got caught for an interception, I tipped it up in the air. But I had no sacks at halftime. So I went in the locker room. I mixed up one of my famous drinks. They called me, the pharmacist. I stuff, what I'm saying? I had a supplement company, and people loved it, broke records with my product. So I went in there, messed me a shake up. I set him up the whole first half. I bull rushed the whole first half. And so I set him up, and I went in the locker room. I remember looking at Andre Carter, and I said, I got him. I got him in the second half. So I go out there. All these came in the third quarter. Now, all 4 sacks came in the third quarter. I go out there. I look like I was going to bull rush him. Now I hit the edge on him. Sack. 4 straight series, probably. And here's the thing. This thing that got me, though. I sat out the whole 4th quarter. We just beat them 35-7, I think. This is Coach Gibbs' year. And so one of the media guys came up to me and said, hey, you tied a Washington record, with the 4 sacks today. I said, dude, now you come tell me. My coach asked me, Greg Blosh, he asked me, do you want to go in the game? Do you want to finish the game? Do you want to get another series? I could have said, yeah, got another sack. But I said, no, let the young guys. Me being the leader that I am and knowing the score's out of hand, I said, no, let the young guys play. And he gonna tell me this late in the 4th quarter too. And I was like, man, you kidding me? I could have broke the record. But it's all good, man. But I just want to throw that at you, man, and insult the end.
I remember that game. I just didn't remember which one it was. You said 37. I knew which game it was now. I was about to ask you if it was the Brunel game where he threw those 2 touchdowns.
Yes, it was the Brunel game. It was that same. It was I don't know if it was that same year. That was the first year when we beat them in Dallas. We threw those touchdowns at the end of the game. So two
it was a Monday night game.
Now this was a game Cooley caught like 3 or 4 touchdowns. It was a home game for us. It was a home game for us. Parcells was the coach, and it was a home game for us. So, AJ, you just missed me. I just added insult to injury talking about my 4 sacks against Dallas. So you didn't miss much.
Oh man, you didn't do him to that. You didn't do him like that, Phil, did you?
I did it to him, man.
Phil, you want to know something really funny about this? Okay, so Washington, Denver, Super Bowl, right? All right. Y'all were our biggest rivals back then. That's before Buddy took over in Philly and really made me hate the Eagles. As much as I detested Washington. I rooted for Doug to beat Elway. All right. So as a Cowboy fan, I could root for Washington way before I could root for Philly. That's how deep Philly runs with me right now. That's how deep Philly. You could blame Buddy Ryan for that. Okay. I didn't care about Philly before that. Philly was a division rival, but Buddy Ryan changed all of that. Going after the kicker, going after everybody. Oh, I hated Buddy Ryan. I enjoyed every bit of when we finally caught up with him later on. But yeah. And then now I know people that worked with Buddy and they don't have a glowing opinion of him. So they really didn't help my demeanor towards Buddy either. So yeah. Man, oh man. I can't believe we've been on this long. Joe's gonna be jealous. We stayed on this long without him. But listen, we had good company. AJ's been in here. Great show. We had some great topics this week. So I'm gonna let Joe pick all the topics from now on, because I seem to let us go long when I do it. And I got to come around tomorrow and do this for the draft show tomorrow night. So, and my co-host can talk. So we'll be on there sometimes way too darn long. But it's time to say goodnight, fellas. I appreciate you for coming on, AJ, man. We're going to get you back on when Joe's here. We get 4 perspectives, man. I
really enjoyed it. I love being with good guys, good brothers, man, especially when you know your stuff, man. All I got to do is sit back and coast because y'all drive. I love it.
Phil, we're going to do this again next week, man. And listen, you can tell me about Bledsoe. I didn't care about Bledsoe, man. I cared more about Huggable than Bledsoe. I knew that wasn't going to work out.
Well, I did you a favor there.
I knew that wasn't going to work out. I knew that was a divorce waiting to happen. So it was like Testaverde. It was like, we really brought Testaverde here. I couldn't wait for him to get sacked. I knew that was a divorce waiting to happen too. So yeah, but guys, we appreciate it. We've taken up enough people's time. We got to let them get back to their lives. So this has been A Perspective. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you tune in next week for Andre AJ Jones, Kappa Alpha Psi, for Philip Daniels. I am Jeff Barnes saying good night.